Well, hello, good evening. It's Adrian Bridge joining again for these Taylor Chats, where I'm once again actually here at the Yateman Hotel in the middle of the city, or the historic airport, right alongside Taylor's actually. We had planned to do this outside, given it's such a beautiful summer's day here, with stunning views across the city, very clear bright light that we often get in the summer here in Porto, but particularly so at the moment. However, there's a little bit of noise of construction as the world of wine takes shape. I don't get too much noise in the background because we're joined this evening by Mike Ratcliffe, who is coming in from South Africa. Mike is a highly recognized leader in the wine industry, and certainly a pioneer in South Africa with his Warwick Estates business, which has now evolved on to further challenges. Mike, it's great to see you there. How is everything with you?
Hi, Adrian. Good evening, and hi to everybody joining the call. Yeah, things are good. It's a pitch dark night at 7:30 in South Africa, and I've got a glass of wine in my hand. So cheers.
I got one here, so cheers. How is everything? Because your government, I know, took an opportunity to make an even tougher lockdown than happened elsewhere in the world because they banned wine sales and tobacco sales at the same time. Is your cellar empty, or are you still surviving?
I think we're in pretty good shape, but ultimately we've had 2.5 months of essentially what is a ban on the sale of alcohol in South Africa. Also, with the shutdown in tourism, that's your DTC, your tourism shut down, your local wine sales, your wine clubs shut down. And only after 2 months did the government deem it fit to open up exports. So we've only had exports for about 10 days. So there are certainly a lot of wineries taking a lot of pain. And, my heart goes out to them. It's unprecedented times.
Well, that's certainly true. And of course, the fact that you were banned from exports from South Africa does imply that all of us over elsewhere in the world who have an opportunity to taste the fabulous wines in South Africa should perhaps remember that and go and buy a bottle, make that choice to buy a South African bottle of wine rather than something else, simply to show a bit of solidarity and support to a nation, after all, that has been hit very hard by this because, as you say, tourism is a hugely important part of what happens in your country's economy. But
Yeah,
talk us through
absolutely.
then what you're seeing in terms of how the wineries are reacting and how are they dealing with the challenges of the growing season this year.
Well, to be a bit more positive than everything around the lockdown, we're coming off what seems to be turning out to be an absolutely cracking vintage. So 2020, we kind of hit it out of the park in terms of quality, beautiful high natural acidity, tiny little berries, wonderful tannins, and to top it all off, we've got a very good crop, high yielding crop, certainly our biggest crop in the last 5 years. So there are a lot of very positive things to be said. Having said that, we're a couple of months behind on sales, and it's going to take a while for equilibrium to return to the market. Make no mistake. But again, I like to dwell on the positives, and we've got some beautiful juice in the cellar, showing some great potential.
And of course, that's happened because after 3 years, I think, of intense drought, where the South African wine industry became the leading experts on the planet in dealing with such climatic anomalies, and you finally broke that drought, had great rainfall, and things are back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, as close to normal as you can possibly get. I guess in the same way that 3 years does make a trend for drought, 1 year doesn't make a trend for lack of drought. So we're in a very good place from that perspective at the moment. I have to say that we're mid-autumn at the moment, heading into winter, and the rainfall has been pretty slow. So let's just hold thumbs that things
Right.
don't go in the wrong direction again. But
But because
there are definitely more positives than negatives from a harvest perspective.
Sure. But this time of the year, you would expect the rain to start, or is that not a little bit later in the season?
Yeah, this is a roundabout when we would be expecting rains to start coming. There's been a little bit, there's been a lot of threats, there's been a couple of cloud bursts, but certainly, we're not in a point where the reservoirs are empty or anything like that. And I speak solely for the wine country around the Western Cape. As soon as you get into some of the more temperate areas on the other side of the mountains, and certainly up north, where they're more semi-arid, they've been calling it a drought for 4 years. They don't feel like they've come out of it. But from our point of view, there's no water restrictions, nothing like that. So yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. But it's only takes one dry winter and you're back where you started.
Sure, that's true. But of course, the knowledge that you've acquired through the 3 years you've had, certainly I know that you and many farmers, I know in the Stellenbosch, for example, the Stellenbosch Farmers Association there, have made tremendous strides. As I say, you are the world's experts on the subject. So, one does feel optimistic that you have been able to come through that. And then, as you say, produce an outstanding harvest in 2020. It shows that sometimes, these things which appear terribly negative on us, there are solutions. People figure things out. And you guys have certainly managed to figure things out down there.
Yeah, we were just talking about it amongst the group of producers this morning. And we were talking about the fact how sometimes it takes a crisis to change how you behave. Certainly, COVID-19 is teaching us and many people in the world how to behave, how to make sure that you're sanitized and not being reckless in terms of bacteria. But I've got a cat trying to join me here. Come on, kitty cat. In the same way, 3 years of drought certainly taught us quite a lot about the importance of water. For 3 years, we were all showering with plastic basins in the bottom of the shower to capture the water to water our plants. And a lot of that learning, I call it, I think it's learning. You would never dream of letting the tap run when you're brushing your teeth, those small little things. And certainly my wife wouldn't dream of planting anything in the garden that isn't drought resistant or certainly water efficient. So there are learnings, and I think COVID-19 is going to give us more learnings as we move forward into this brave new world.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly right to take out the positives from it, because in many ways a lot of what we're doing is going back to some of the basics. I'm sure, given scarcity of water 100 years ago, having water coming out of a tap meant you kind of didn't let it just run straight down the drain. We've kind of become a little bit more idle in terms of our approach, and so something like this allows us to rethink. But I want to move on. I want to talk a bit about what you're drinking, because you've got so many fabulous wines down there. I'm sure you've selected something pretty interesting to drink this evening. Tell us about it.
Well, being a producer, you never waste an opportunity to promote your own product. So there you go. Villafonte Series M, brand new release for 2016. It's tasting pretty snappy, I'll have to say. That's my little personal plug for the evening. But Villafonte is the, as you know, is the business I started. I got involved in. We planted the vineyards almost 25 years ago, and it's a joint. It was the first South African and Californian joint venture. So I partnered with Zelma Long and Phil Fries, who were synonymous with Mondavi and Opus and Simi, and we've been partners ever since. And it's going great guns. Business is solid, and the brand continues its development. We only produce red wine, 2 Bordeaux blends. That's it. Very focused.
And that was very pioneering 25 years ago. But do you still feel a pioneer, or do you feel that you brought much of the industry along with you?
Well, I think there's been a tidal wave of innovation in South Africa recently, and certainly in the last 10 or 15 years. The innovation, a lot of youngsters doing things differently. There's been a new generation that has seemingly come out of nowhere and consciously perhaps threatened, but certainly challenged the status quo and turned everything upside down. So I certainly don't take credit for that whatsoever, but I would like to think that in a small way we've played a little bit of a role going forward. and certainly there's much more interest internationally in the South African wine industry. A lot of high-profile foreign investment. So yeah, there's it's a pretty exciting place to be. Of course, I'm speaking generally in the middle of lockdown when I can't sell wine to my private wine club members. It's a little bit more doom and gloom, but in
Well,
general,
but I mean,
we,
one of the most important things is that quality will eventually find the customers, or the customers will seek it out. I mean, I think if you've made the great wines, they're going to last a long time. If they're in the cellar, it is simply a function of allowing the market to and the channels to open up, and then your wines will be there. The consumers will be waiting to buy them. So
yeah.
quality will find its customers.
Well, I must
But
tell
what?
you, a slightly weird scenario at the moment is that the wineries in South Africa are all selling their wine, but because it's illegal to transport wine or deliver to the customer, there's a huge pile of wine that's been sold. Cash has changed hands, but the wine just hasn't been delivered. So we've got some very, very patient customers, I must say,
and
and
and getting
that's
thirsty.
getting very thirsty. Yeah, that's this.
Yeah,
It's the secondary drought. But
yeah,
I certainly think that the current COVID-19 crisis is a blip. It will pass. We'll look back
yeah.
at it and laugh. I said that to my team today. We'll look back and laugh at the absurdity of it all. But ultimately, a few brands that were marginal are going to have a tougher time than brands that have spent their time building their pedigree and their gravitas. And
Yeah.
ultimately, pedigree and gravitas is going to carry the top brands right through this.
I think that's right. I think it's quite interesting here in Portugal, though. I mean, you were talking about, the evolution of winemaking there, and that you didn't say that you were the pioneer. You certainly helped, but lots of other people have got involved, and the whole quality of everything coming out of South Africa has improved. We certainly, if we look at the sort of macro picture and over the last, say, generation here in Portugal, and it's very important that we do, not get totally focused in the last 30 days or the last 60 days, but think about some of the bigger pictures that have taken place. There's been a massive progress in the Portuguese wine industry. And one of the interesting things about that is that the growth and interest in wines has also caused a big renaissance and growth in restaurants. Lots of young chefs coming out, being creative, looking at food and wine pairings. And there's that we, and I'm speaking to you from a town where 25 years ago, we probably had one good restaurant. Nowadays, we've got 5 that have got Michelin stars. One has 2 Michelin stars. We've probably got another 15 that could have a Michelin star. And behind that, there's a whole young cadre of fantastic chefs. So this food and wine thing seems to go together. Is that the case down there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'd been doing the interview, I could have said something similar. We've Stellenbosch specifically. I chair the local wine body, Stellenbosch Wine Route. It's got a lot of very dynamic wine producers, getting more dynamic and also getting more focused. But in the same way, we have a sister organization called Taste Stellenbosch, which is the local chefs organization, and consistently in the top 20 restaurants in South Africa, 5 of them are in the Stellenbosch region. So it is certainly an area that is showcasing its innovation. But I guess, to your point, Adrian, it's the food and wine that goes so well together. And of those 5 restaurants, 2 or 3 of them are on wineries. And I guess that's very similar to what's going on in Porto. On top of that, we've also got some pretty high class hotels that have been developing over the years. So there's an all round tourism offering.
Yeah.
And for my sins, I also chair the local Stellenbosch tourism organization called Visit Stellenbosch. And so if there was ever a poison chalice in COVID-19, taking the chair of those 2 organizations at this stage, it's pretty tough. But
Yeah.
that too will pass.
Although I know you've also got some pioneering companies there. You've got a company called Explore Sideways, which is one of the leaders in sort of getting people on, customized trips out to the vineyards to explore the vineyard, to taste, and have a full immersive experience of great food, great wine, and of course, in the case of Stellenbosch, stunningly beautiful landscape and mountains. I mean, I love mountains, but those ones there are really for everybody listening who hasn't been, make sure that when you can book your flight, get down and see it.
Explore Sideways has done some pretty pioneering stuff, and they're all about creating experiences. It's no longer good enough for somebody to visit a region just to go visit a winery or just to go for a meal. They want the full experience, and also people are really willing to pay for the insider experience. Insider access to a barrel cellar that's closed to the public, or maybe opening a vintage that's 30 years old instead of the standard offering. And I see that I think I saw Joshin from Explore Sideways is actually tuned in. There he is. Hi, Joshin. So
good. There we are.
Yeah.
There you are. He's on the call and gets a plug. There we are. Well, I was actually going to also give a plug for our restaurant here at Taylor's, and in the sense that as Portugal now comes out of lockdown, we in fact this Thursday will be opening the restaurant at Taylor's. So people will once again be able to come and do a port tasting, a food tasting, and we're a little bit further ahead than other countries, so we'll see how that goes, which I think should be exciting. But what's your So, go on, Mike, please.
Just in a similar way, at the moment, we've been pretty reliably informed that the ban on the transport and sale of alcohol domestically will come to an end at the end of May, or as our president said, by the end of the May. So everybody in the wine industry is counting the days because it could happen today or tomorrow. So that's also something to be positive about. Also, I think that there's a lot of empty cellars. So there are going to be some sucking noises when retail opens again.
Well, I'm sure that's absolutely true, that people want to buy those and get their delivery if they've placed their order past the cash and are looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully they've got their corkscrew at the ready. Although, down there, most of you are using great corks. Up here with port, we tend to have a stopper cork. So we can at least survive without a corkscrew. We can simply pull off the stopper and pour straight from the bottle. And I'm just going to tell everyone who's listening what I'm drinking, because I'm on this product here, which is the Taylor's Reserve Tawny Port. This is the special historic edition that we've done, where we've selected bottles from our museum and made modern replicas. And so this is one that actually contains an old tawny. So and you guys down there have been making some sort of port style, I must emphasize port style wines for generations. I mean, your port style wines go all the way back to probably when, 2 or 3 centuries ago as well, because that was a major place. All the boats coming past that needed to top up again with their favorite type of drink. They'd bought port here, they'd got all the way down there, they'd consumed it all, their cellars were empty, their sucking sound was there. And of course, they got it locally, because you've got a climate that's not that dissimilar to us.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, all with lots of different names, Cape Tawny, and as long as they don't use the word port, they get in awful trouble from you Porto fellows. But also, other similar styled wines like the great wines of Constantia. There's some absolutely cracking wines. But Adrian, I wanted to just go back to the topic of climate again, if that's okay.
We should. It's very, very important.
And I thought it would be important to say that probably 6 or 8 months ago, I reached out to you, and I think it's a good story for everyone to hear. I reached out to you about the Porto Protocol, and which I think is an absolutely pioneering initiative. For those of you that don't know about it, please go onto the web and just Google Porto Protocol, have a look at the website. But it's a really incredible wine industry driven initiative to look at sustainability and place a real emphasis on sustainability in the wine industry. But we have we got the entire Stellenbosch wine region to join as a member of Porto Protocol, and I have to say it's gained some great traction. It's only been 6 months, but I can tell you that just focusing on a single initiative like the Porto Protocol has taken us leaps and bounds forward. And I'd love to be able to report back in a year that it's completely flying. And so hats off to you, by the way. That's a bloody good effort.
Well, I think that the point is that it's not about us here. It's all about being just, I suppose, a catalyst for the entire wine industry around the world to come together and to bring their expertise. And that's why, earlier we were talking about the fact that you guys have such expertise in drought. We can all learn from that. But your support and the support of Stellenbosch in that initiative is huge. It emphasizes the fact that it's a global organization where we can all share from each other. We can all share and we can all learn from each other. And I think you've also kindly stepped up to be involved in some of the climate talks that the Porto Protocol is doing, where we're trying to tackle subjects. Obviously, we can't hold conferences or anything else of this nature, but we've all begun to learn about new technology and new ways to communicate. And the climate talks are hugely important. So yes, Mike, thank you for leading the Stellenbosch into the Porto Protocol, for sharing, and thank you also for stepping up on those climate talks. It's hugely important, and I think it's hugely important that we look at and remember the longer term of what's going on. COVID is here today, and we don't quite know what's going to happen to that in the longer term. But what we do know is that the climate has been changing. Most of us have seen a different climate in the last 6 to 8 weeks, and I hope have felt that with less pollution, it's a better world to live in. So hopefully it keeps the momentum going.
Let's see. Well, I'm looking forward to getting on a plane. Did you know that effective November, all things considered, TAP is launching a direct Cape Town, Portugal flight?
Which is fantastic. I know our national airline has been reaching out around the world. I think Portugal has, we're just opening a museum a little later this year, in the end of July, which is talking about how Portugal went out and spread around the world. I think once again, people do realize that this is a destination that people can spread out from and bring them back and visit old world Europe. And certainly, if we have that direct flight, then I'll be coming that way. Hopefully you won't be coming up as I go down. I'll be able to come there. We'll share a nice glass of wine. You'll come up here and we'll share a great glass of port. We'll have a chance to talk face to face. But this has been a fantastic technological opportunity to talk face to face. And you've been very generous with your time, because I know it's late over there. I want to just raise a big glass to you, Mike, and to everything that you do. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, and extremely good luck with everything that you're doing and all the chairmanships that you're taking on. Well done, you. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Cheers.
Cheers then. Cheers.
Good night.